Hello, everyone. I want to talk to you today about something that could completely change your life. You see, so many people desire transformation. They dream of a better future. They long for growth, but they never actually take the steps necessary to make it happen. Change isn't something that just happens to you. It's something you must choose. And if you don't take action, nothing in your life will shift. So today I want to challenge you to stop waiting, stop hesitating, and start moving. Because the life you want is on the other side of a decision you need to make. Change is one of those things that everybody wants, but very few people are willing to truly pursue. It's not because people don't desire better for their lives. It's not because they don't want to grow, succeed, or transform. It's because change requires something that most people avoid: honest self-awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot fix what you won't admit is broken. The first step toward any kind of transformation in your life is the ability to recognize the areas that need to be different. The problem is, most people spend their time justifying their current state instead of confronting it. They explain away their struggles, they make excuses for their patterns, and they tell themselves that their situation is just the way it is. But if you are constantly making excuses for why things are the way they are, you are also giving yourself permission to stay the same. You cannot break free from something if you refuse to acknowledge that it's holding you back. Too many people live in denial about their habits, their mindset, their relationships, and their decisions. They convince themselves that they are fine, even when everything around them is telling them that something needs to change. But ignoring a problem does not make it go away. Refusing to see an issue does not erase it. The longer you deny it, the deeper it takes root. Think about a person who wants to get in shape but refuses to acknowledge their unhealthy eating habits. They may say things like, "I don't eat that bad," or "I just have a slow metabolism," or "I'll start next week." But until they recognize that their habits are the real issue, they will never make a change. The same principle applies to every area of life. You cannot fix your finances if you refuse to acknowledge that your spending habits are out of control. You cannot improve your relationships if you refuse to admit that your communication is unhealthy. You cannot grow spiritually if you keep convincing yourself that you're fine just the way you are. Growth starts with honesty. It starts with the willingness to say, "I need to change." One of the biggest barriers to change is pride. Pride tells you that you're fine the way you are. Pride tells you that you don't need help. Pride makes you defensive when someone tries to point out an area where you could improve. But pride will keep you stuck in the same cycle, repeating the same mistakes, dealing with the same frustrations over and over again. The people who experience true transformation are not the ones who think they have it all together. They are the ones who have the humility to admit that they don't. They are the ones who are willing to look at themselves honestly and say, "This is not working and I need to do something about it." Self-awareness is not just about recognizing the problem, it's about recognizing the patterns. If you don't take time to reflect on why things are the way they are, you will keep repeating the same cycles. If every year you find yourself in the same place, dealing with the same struggles, facing the same frustrations, that is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. And if you don't take the time to identify the root of that pattern, it will continue to control your life. You might think, "Why do I always end up in toxic relationships?" Or "Why do I always falling into the same bad habits?" Or "Why do I always struggle with the same insecurities?" The answer is not just in what's happening to you. The answer is in what's happening inside of you. Your patterns will not change until your awareness changes. The problem is, self-awareness can be uncomfortable. It forces you to confront things about yourself that you may not want to see. It forces you to take responsibility instead of blaming others. It forces you to ask difficult questions like, "What am I doing that is contributing to this situation?" Or, "What mindset have I allowed to keep me in this place?" But as uncomfortable as self-awareness may be, it is the key to freedom. Because once you recognize the issue, you can do something about it. One of the most powerful things you can do is ask yourself, what in my life is not working? That question alone can open the door to transformation, but most people never ask it. They don't stop long enough to reflect. They don't take the time to evaluate their lives. They just keep moving, keep pushing forward, keep hoping that somehow things will change on their own. But nothing changes until you change it. And you cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. Sometimes the people around you can see the areas where you need to grow before you do. But if you are not open to feedback, you will miss it. The people in your life who truly care about you will not just tell you what you want to hear, they will tell you what you need to hear. But if you are always defensive, always shutting down conversations that challenge you, always rejecting anything that makes you uncomfortable, you will never grow. Growth requires a willingness to listen. It requires a teachable spirit. It requires the ability to say, maybe I don't see everything clearly, and I need to be open to a different perspective. The reality is, if you keep living the way you have always lived, you will keep getting the same results. If you keep thinking the way you have always thought, you will keep ending up in the same place. Nothing changes until something changes. And the first step to any real change is recognizing what needs to be different. There are people who spend their whole lives waiting for things to get better without ever taking the time to ask, what do I need to change? They assume that the problem is always external, other people, their circumstances, bad luck. But the people who truly transform their lives are the ones who stop waiting for things around them to change and start focusing on changing themselves. Because the moment you realize that you have the power to change your own life, everything shifts. Most people don't change until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. They wait until they have no choice. They wait until they are forced into it. But change does not have to come through crisis. It can come through awareness. It can come through a decision to grow before things fall apart. It can come through the realization that you don't have to wait for rock bottom to start moving in a new direction. The question is, are you willing to be honest with yourself? Are you willing to look at your life and acknowledge the areas where you need to grow? Are you willing to stop making excuses? Stop blaming circumstances? Stop waiting for the perfect moment and start making a change? Because the reality is, nothing in your life will change until you do. Your mindset is the foundation of everything in your life. The way you think determines the way you live. It affects your decisions, your habits, your relationships, and ultimately your future. You cannot have a changed life with an unchanged mind. So many people want to see different results in their lives, but they keep thinking the same way. They want success, but still carry a failure mentality. They want to grow, but still hold on to limiting beliefs. They want to step into new opportunities, but are trapped by the old fears that have kept them stuck for years. If you want to change your life, the first place you need to look is your mindset. Because transformation does not start with what happens around you. It starts with what happens inside you. Your mind is constantly shaping the direction of your life. Every action you take begins as a thought. The decisions you make, the way you react to challenges, the way you interpret your experiences, all of it is influenced by what is happening in your mind. Two people can go through the exact same situation and have completely different outcomes based on how they think. One person faces rejection and sees it as proof that they are not good enough, while another sees it as an opportunity to grow and come back stronger. One person sees failure as a reason to quit, while another sees it as a lesson that brings them one step closer to success. The difference is not in the situation, it's in the mindset. Most people go through life without ever questioning the way they think. They assume that the thoughts they have are just facts. that their perspective is just the way it is. But the truth is, your mind has been shaped by everything you have experienced. Your upbringing, your environment, the words spoken over you, the things you have gone through. If you grew up in an environment where people told you that you were not good enough, you might still be carrying that belief, even if it's not true. If you have faced constant disappointment, you might have developed the mindset that things will never work out for you, even if that is not reality. Your mind has been trained by past experiences, but the good news is you can retrain it. You do not have to be trapped by old ways of thinking. You do not have to stay stuck in the patterns that have held you back. But if you do not take control of your thoughts will control you. Your mindset determines what you believe is possible. Some people never step into their full potential, not because they are not capable, but because they have already convinced themselves that they can't. They don't even try because they have already lost in their minds. But others step into great things not because they have more talent, not because they have more resources, but because they refuse to let a negative mindset limit them. They choose to believe that even if they don't have all the answers, they can figure it out. Even if they fail, they can get back up. Even if it's difficult, they are willing to push through. That kind of mindset is what separates those who grow from those who stay the same. Your thoughts create patterns in your life. If you always think that you are not good enough, you will act in a way that reinforces that belief. If you always think that things never work out for you, you will sabotage yourself before you even begin. But the opposite is also true. If you start thinking differently, you will start acting differently. And when you start acting differently, your life will begin to change. But the process starts in your mind. Many people live their entire lives being controlled by thoughts that were never meant to define them. They carry insecurities that were placed on them by someone else's words. They stay in cycles of negativity because they have never taken the time to challenge the way they think. But if you want to change your future, you have to change the way you see yourself. You have to recognize the thoughts that are not serving you and replace them with thoughts that push you forward. You have to stop allowing fear to dictate your decisions and start training your mind to focus on possibilities instead of limitations. Most people don't realize that they have the power to choose their thoughts. They assume that whatever enters their mind is just the way it is. But your thoughts are not in control of you. You are in control of your thoughts. You can decide which thoughts to entertain and which thoughts to reject. You can choose to focus on what builds you up instead of what tears you down. You can decide to replace negative self-talk with words of truth and encouragement. But if you do not take responsibility for your thoughts, they will take control of you. One of the most powerful things you can do is learn to recognize the thoughts that are holding you back. Pay attention to the things you tell yourself on a daily basis. Are you speaking life over yourself, or are you constantly reinforcing doubt and fear? Are you focusing on what you can do, or are you always thinking about what you lack? Are you seeing challenges as opportunities to grow, or are you letting them convince you to quit? Your mindset is shaping your reality, whether you realize it or not. And if you do not like the direction your life is going, the first thing you need to do is examine the way you think. You will never rise above the level of your thinking. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will never step into the opportunities that are meant for you. If you believe that success is only for other people, you will never push yourself to reach higher. If you think that change is impossible for you, you will never take the steps needed to grow. But the moment you shift your mindset, everything changes. When you start believing that you are capable, you will start acting like it. When you start seeing failure as a lesson instead of a roadblock, you will start taking more risks. When you start training your mind to focus on solutions instead of problems, you will begin to find opportunities where others only see obstacles. Your mindset is a muscle, and just like any other muscle, it needs to be trained. You do not develop a strong mindset overnight. It takes daily effort. It takes consistently choosing the right thoughts. It takes challenging yourself to think bigger, to believe in possibilities instead of limitations, to push past fear and into faith. It takes being intentional about the words you speak over yourself and the messages you allow into your mind. The more you train your mind to focus on what is good, what is possible, and what is true, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger your mindset becomes, the more unstoppable you will be. Everything you want to achieve in life starts with the way you think. If you do not believe you can change, you won't. If you do not believe you can grow, you will stay stuck. But if you choose to shift your mindset, to replace doubt with belief, to replace fear with action, to replace excuses with responsibility, then your life will begin to move in a new direction. Because transformation always begins in the mind. Growth requires discomfort. That is a truth most people don't like to hear, but it's the foundation of real change. Everyone wants to grow, everyone wants to improve, everyone wants to reach new levels, but very few people are willing to endure the discomfort that comes with it. Because growth is not easy. It stretches you, it challenges you, it forces you out of what is familiar, and that is why so many people resist it. They want the benefits of change without the process of change. They want the results of transformation without the struggle that comes with it. But if you are serious about growing, if you are serious about stepping into the person you were meant to be, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable. Everything in life that is worth having requires discomfort. Think about how muscles grow. If you want to get stronger, you have to put your body under resistance. You have to lift heavier weights, push through fatigue, endure soreness, and keep showing up even when it's hard. The only way your muscles grow is by being broken down and rebuilt stronger. The same principle applies to every area of life. You cannot become stronger mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or in your skills without resistance. If you always stay in your comfort zone, you will never grow. If you always do what is easy, you will never develop resilience. If you always avoid struggle, you will never reach your full potential. Most people run from discomfort. The moment something gets hard, they quit. The moment things don't go as planned, they back away. The moment they feel fear, they assume it's a sign to stop. But discomfort is not a sign to quit. It is a sign that you are growing. It is a sign that you are stepping into something bigger than where you have been. The challenge is not there to stop you. It is there to shape you. It is there to refine you. It is there to build you into the person who can handle the next level. But if you keep avoiding discomfort, you are also avoiding growth. Think about any major breakthrough in your life. It didn't come from a place of ease. It came from a place of challenge. It came from a moment where you had to push through fear, where you had to step into something unknown, where you had to keep going even when you wanted to give up. That is where growth happens. Growth does not happen in comfort. It does not happen in familiarity. It happens when you stretch beyond what you thought you were capable of. It happens when you take risks. It happens when you do the hard things that most people are unwilling to do. The problem is we live in a world that prioritizes comfort. Everything around us is designed to make life easier, to remove struggle, to give instant gratification. And while there is nothing wrong with convenience, there is something dangerous about becoming addicted to ease. If you always choose the easy route, you will never develop the strength you need to handle bigger challenges. If you always take the shortcut, you will never build the character that comes from perseverance. If you always look for the fastest, simplest way to success, you will never experience the depth of growth that comes from enduring difficulty. Look at anyone who has achieved great things, and you will see someone who has endured discomfort. Athletes push their bodies to the limit. Entrepreneurs take massive risks. Artists spend years perfecting their craft. Leaders make tough decisions that nobody else wants to make. Every person who has stepped into something significant had to go through a process of stretching, of failing, of enduring criticism, of pushing past their fears. And that process is what made them who they are. You cannot separate growth from struggle. You cannot separate progress from discomfort. They go hand in hand. One of the biggest reasons people avoid discomfort is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. They stay where they are because it feels safer. But the truth is, staying in your comfort zone is not safe. It's dangerous. Because the longer you stay comfortable, the more stagnant you become. The longer you avoid challenges, the weaker you get. The longer you resist growth, the more you miss out on what you were meant to become. Comfort feels safe, but it is actually holding you back. The discomfort of growth is temporary, but the regret of saying the same lasts forever. You might have to go through a season of difficulty. You might have to endure moments where you feel like quitting. You might have to face fears that make you uncomfortable. But those things are shaping you. They are making you stronger. They are preparing you for what is next. The question is, will you embrace the process or will you resist it? Will you lean into the discomfort or will you let it push you back into what is familiar? So many people never reach their potential because they are waiting for growth to feel good. They are waiting for the right moment, for the right conditions, for the process to be easy. But growth will never feel comfortable. If you are growing, you will feel stretched. You will feel challenged. You will have moments where you wonder if you can keep going. That is part of the process. And if you are feeling that right now, it means you are on the right track. Think about a seed that is planted in the ground. It has to break open before it can grow. It has to push through dirt, through pressure, through resistance before it can rise above the surface. If the seed could feel, the process would probably be painful. But that pain is necessary for it to become what it was meant to be. The same is true for you. You might be in a season where you feel buried, where you feel pressed, where you feel like everything is difficult. But what if that pressure is not there to destroy you? What if it is there to grow you? What if the struggle you are facing is actually pushing you into your next level? The difference between those who grow and those who stay the same is not that one group has an easier path. Is that one group embraces the process while the other resists it. The ones who grow understand that pain is part of the journey. They understand that struggle is part of the transformation. They don't run from it, they push through it. And because of that, they become stronger, wiser, more resilient. The discomfort you are feeling is not a sign that you should quit. It is a sign that you are being stretched. It is a sign that you are stepping into something bigger. It is a sign that you are growing. But if you let that discomfort scare you, you will never see what is on the other side. Growth is painful, but staying the same is even more painful in the long run. Because one day you will look back and realize that everything you could have been was on the other side of a challenge you were afraid to face. So the real question is, how much are you willing to endure for the sake of who you are becoming? How much are you willing to push through to reach the next level? How much are you willing to embrace discomfort, knowing that it is the price of transformation? Because at the end of the day, your future will be determined by one thing: whether or not you were willing to grow through what was uncomfortable. Your environment has the power to shape your future. Who you surround yourself with, what you expose yourself to, and the atmosphere you allow into your life all play a critical role in determining your growth. Many people want to change, they want to grow, they want to reach new levels, but they fail to recognize that change cannot happen in the wrong environment. You cannot grow in a place that is keeping you stuck. You cannot step into a new version of yourself while holding on to everything that kept you in the old one. If you are serious about change, you need to take a hard look at the environment you are in, because it is either pushing you forward or pulling you back. Think about how plants grow. The seed itself carries all the potential for life. But if it is planted in unhealthy soil, it will never reach its full potential. If the environment is toxic, the seed will never thrive. The same is true for you. You have everything you need inside of you to become the person you are meant to be, but if you are planted in the wrong environment, it will stunt your growth. If you are surrounded by negativity, by people who don't believe in you, by influences that keep you small, you will struggle to grow, not because you don't have what it takes, but because the environment is not supporting your growth. One of the hardest things about change is realizing that not everything and everyone can come with you. There are relationships, habits, mindsets, and environments that were part of your past that cannot be part of your future. It doesn't mean those things were all bad. It just means they are not meant for where you are going. But many people get stuck because they try to hold on to the very things that are keeping them from growing. They want to move forward, but they keep surrounding themselves with people who drag them back into old patterns. They want to change their mindset, but they keep listening to voices that reinforce their old ways of thinking. They want to step into something new, but they stay in environments that only support who they used to be, not who they are becoming. You have to be intentional about your environment because it is shaping you whether you realize it or not. The people you spend the most time with are influencing your mindset, your habits, and your decisions. If you are constantly around people who complain, who are negative, who have no ambition, it will affect you. Even if you have big dreams, even if you want more for your life, if you are surrounded by the wrong influences, it will wear you down over time. But if you are surrounded by people who challenge you, who inspire you, who push you to be better, that environment will elevate you. You don't rise to your highest potential in isolation. You rise in the right community. Your habits are also shaped by your environment. If you are in an environment that makes it easy to stay the same, you will struggle to change. If you are always around distractions, it will be hard to stay focused. If you are always around people who justify bad decisions, it will be hard to make good ones. But if you intentionally place yourself in an environment that supports growth, you will start to see change happen more naturally. That's why successful people are intentional about where they spend their time. They create environments that help them grow. They surround themselves with people who make them better. They eliminate distractions that pull them away from their purpose. They make sure their surroundings align with the future they want, not the past they are leaving behind. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to your growth is not a lack of ability, but a lack of the right environment. You might have all the potential in the world, but if you are in a place that does not nurture that potential, it will never be fully realized. That is why it is so important to take inventory of your environment. What kind of people are you around? Do they encourage your growth or discourage it? What kind of conversations are you having? Are they building you up or pulling you down? What kind of influences are you exposing yourself to? Are they feeding your mind with possibilities or filling it with doubt? If you want to change your life, you have to be willing to change your environment. Many people struggle with this because change often requires distance. It requires stepping away from certain relationships, certain habits, certain places that are no longer serving them. And that is uncomfortable. It is hard to walk away from what is familiar, even if it is keeping you stuck. It is hard to outgrow people, to set new boundaries, to change the way you spend your time. But if you are serious about stepping into a new season, you have to be willing to make those hard decisions. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone will support it. But if you stay in an environment that is keeping you small, you will never step into the person you were created to be. Sometimes people hold on to the wrong environment out of loyalty. They don't want to distance themselves from certain relationships because they feel guilty. They don't want to set boundaries because they're afraid of what people will think. But staying in a place that is hurting your growth does not serve anyone. You cannot help people by shrinking yourself. You cannot help fulfill your purpose by staying in places that drain you. You have to surround yourself with people who challenge you, who call out the best in you, who see where you are going and not just where you have been. Your environment should align with your future, not your past. if you are stepping into something new, you need to be in places that support that growth. You need to be around people who elevate you. You need to create habits that reinforce the change you are making. You cannot afford to let your environment be random. You have to be intentional about it. If you want to build a strong mindset, you need to surround yourself with positive influences. If you want to develop discipline, you need to be in an environment that encourages good habits. If you want to become more successful, you need to learn from people who have already walked that path. Growth requires sacrifice. It requires letting go of things that are no longer serving you. It requires stepping out of what is comfortable and into what is necessary. And one of the biggest sacrifices you will have to make is leaving behind environments that are keeping you stuck. It is not easy. It takes courage. It takes the willingness to stand alone for a season if necessary. It takes the boldness to walk away from certain situations even when people don't understand. But the reward of stepping into the right environment is worth it. Because when you are in the right place, surrounded by the right people, engaging in the right habits, your growth will accelerate. Everything in your life is being shaped by your surroundings, your mindset, your habits, your confidence, your potential. It is all being influenced by what you allow into your life. If you are not growing, take a look at where you are planted. If you feel stuck, take a look at what you are surrounding yourself with. You have the power to change your environment. You have the ability to make choices that support your growth. You don't have to stay in places that limit you. You don't have to hold on to relationships that pull you down. You don't have to continue habits that no longer serve you. If you want to change your life, change your environment, because where you are planted determines how you will grow.